Good morning, Jack. It's Saturday the 6th of November. Today I want to talk to you about the autumn statement. Before we go on and talk about the autumn statement, Jack, I just want you to remember that here at Glass Half Full News we only ever look at the good things. So although there are a lot of negative things about the autumn statement and things that are still questionable, here I'll be focusing on the good things. So the first one, and possibly the biggest one, is about stamp duty. At the moment there's a sort of slab tax on stamp duty, so no matter your property price you pay a set amount. That's changing, and it's changing to something more like the income tax model. What this means is that 98% of people buying a house are going to benefit. They're going to pay less stamp duty. And people buying a house less than £125,000 won't pay any stamp duty at all. And Mr. Osbourne can afford to do this because he's raising the stamp duty for people that are buying houses over sort of £1 million, and they can pay up to 12% of stamp duty. And seeing as we've mentioned personal income, I'd like to talk about the second point, which is the personal allowance for income tax. Historically, there's always been an allowance where you don't pay any tax on the earnings up to X thousand pounds. And that's being raised. It's being raised to £10,600, which is £100 more than the Conservatives said they would raise it, so a little bit of a token there. More tax news in that the air ambulances and hospices in the country will no longer have to pay VAT, which will be a bit of a relief for them. Third on my list, Jack, Mr. Osbourne is trying to tackle tax avoidance. And there's a couple of different ways he's going to try and do this. One is more personal and one is more about the corporation. So with the corporations, he's tackling companies like Google and Starbucks, who make a lot of revenue in the UK, but artificially shift that revenue outside the UK in order to avoid paying tax. So Jack, this artificially shifted money will be taxed at 25%. And that crackdown on the corporations, he reckons is going to raise about $5 billion in revenue, which is pretty good. The legality of that is still uncertain, but we'll see. So aside from the corporations, we then also have the personal people. So people like the guy that owns Topshop, who lives here in the UK, but Topshop is owned by his wife, who lives in Monaco. What he's planning to do is kind of like an exit fee from the UK. So if you move out of the UK, but you spent 17 of the last 20 years here in the UK, then you pay £90,000 for the privilege of leaving. Sounds like, again, a bit of a token effort, but it's going to bring something in. Another small addition from Mr. Osbourne is that children will no longer have to pay air passenger duty. So if a family is going on holiday, they will no longer have to pay that duty for their children under 12, which is rising to children under 16 next year, and then in 2016 it's also raising to all classes on a plane. So a few last small wins to mention then, Jack. George Osbourne plans to freeze fuel duty, so no rise there. He's also planning to give £1.1 billion to the ESA, the European Space Agency, and hopes that UK will lead the mission to Mars there. And apparently all of these changes have afforded him to give £2 billion more to the NHS. And Jack, while we've spoken about a lot of good things here, I think it's also important to remember that the Conservatives made a lot of promises back in 2010, most, if not all, of which they've missed, and this is just a start of the campaign for them for the next election. But Jack, I'll see you on Wednesday.